All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back here with another Nerd Talk. This time around, we are talking specifically about Batman. Anything, everything, Batman. So today's category involve Best Batman, Best Villain, Ledger versus Best Side Character. We're gonna do Batmobile, what we thought was the most iconic one, but we're just gonna be skipping that one. Best Animated Movie and the Best Live Action. Those are the categories that we are going. Feel free, as always, to chime in on any of these that we talk about. Are going to stuff. I believe we talked about doing the animated stuff first.
Yep, we're going to start with the best animated Batman movie. So my pick is going to be Batman: Mask of the Phantasm.
And mine will be Batman: Freeze, Sub-Zero.
Okay, and as always, everyone, we're going to do a 10-minute, probably 10-minute debate and everything like that. And then after each round, Kelly will put up the poll, see what you guys think. Again, we we ask you guys pick not only just by what your favorite is, but who had the better argument. So,
correct.
Going forward, we'll get started now. So both Batman and Mask of Phantasm and Batman, Mr. Freeze Sub-Zero, are two movies that were based out of the same character list and almost the same universe as Batman the Animated Series, which still to this day is probably one of the best cartoons ever made, and especially in regards to superhero movies. Both of them take different stories. Batman the Mask of Phantasm, kind of more of a prequel in a way. It takes place still within that Batman storyline during the show and kind of like still going on. There's a lot of flashbacks of how Batman became. It talks about his first love, Andrea Beaumont, and it tells a story where it's connecting a lot of things, including the Joker being connected to Beaumont and her family in the past. Batman, Mr. Freeze, Sub-Zero is a tale of kind of the final straw for Mr. Freeze to save his wife. It has Robin. Basically, to sum up the story, Batman and Robin must save Batgirl, Barbara Gordon, from Mr. Freeze because she has the same blood type as his wife. And so going into debate of which movie is better and everything like that, it's kind of hard. Both movies are really good, but I'm going to say this. One of these movies was a theatrical release, and that was Batman Mask of Phantasm, and so when they made the movie, they were originally going to put it on theatrical release. Then Warner Brothers said, no, don't do it. It's a cartoon. It's not going to sell and everything like that. Then they saw it. They previewed it before it actually got released to VHS and DVD, or VHS at the time. Excuse me, it was all VHS. They turned around and said, oh my God, this movie is amazing. Put it in theaters. And it sold out. It was a very high-grossing movie. And to this day, it still lives up. It's a great movie. I think with Batman, Mr. Freeze, Sub-Zero, I think it's just a longer episode. I don't think there was really anything too special about it. I mean, the soundtrack for Batman Mask of Phantasm was on point. We got introduced to a new character, Phantasm, played by, who ended up being Andrea Beaumont. But this person was pretty much, Batman, but doing what Batman never did, which was kill. And, then you had the police. Everyone, Gotham City was turning on Batman because they thought it was him. Then you come around to the Joker, and then, the mobsters were getting more and more scared that they hired the Joker, which he turned on them. And to me, that's a much better story. Because with Mr. Freeze, it was always the same thing. It was save Nora. I gotta save Nora. And yeah, it was a different twist, but the Mask of the Phantasm was something completely different, especially for that show. And it was, like I said, it took things to a whole new level. It was dark at times. It was very touching. You saw kind of the what really drove him over the line to become Batman.
So yeah, I mean, obviously that did do all that, but to see the reason that I going with Sub Zero is just because it's actually not one of those Batman movies where it's somebody looking for revenge, not somebody out to kill Batman. It's actually a story about actually a guy who's portrayed as a villain, but really can't really look at him as a villain, even though they say he's a villain. He's just a man who loves his wife so much that he's trying to do anything for her. That's what is unfortunately is casting him as a villain in this Batman movie. But really, like I said, he's trying to find a cure. He's trying to save her. In this one as well, he finds out that Barbara Gordon has the same blood wife. Fortunately, her cryogenic chamber actually breaks during a submarine layer. He has to find quickly save her because she only live. So in this one, instead, like I said, we are actually seeing something different, where we actually see Batman actually willing to help a villain. Well, he actually realizes what is going on, and he finds them. Like I said, it was nothing to do revenge or anything. It's just a man who's trying to find a solution, trying to save his wife so deeply that he's willing to do anything. And that's the other thing I like about this movie. We actually don't just get Batman. We actually don't just get Batman Robin. We actually get to see Barbara as well. It's nice to actually see some of the other characters come in as well as in these movies as well, just not competitive characters. It was actually kind of good to see her as a role, but it's still, I will say this, her role was just kind of I mean, obviously she was playing more for just civilian, so mixed with a little bit of Batgirl at the beginning of the movie. Toward the end, and it's her just edge. And also, you can see the love relationship between her and Dick as well. Otherwise, yeah,
So,
I just feel like it's better. It probably will cut it. I don't know why it doesn't do
yeah, but the problem is with that, with your talk of your movie and everything like that, is we've already seen all that. Any episode that we see of Mr. Freeze and Batman, always the same thing. It's Batman. He's a villain. He's doing all these bad things, but it's all the end. I'm just trying to save my wife, and Batman goes to save. Batman has his conscience and wants to save Nora and everything like that, help him out and everything like that. So I just feel like it's just a similar story that we see over and over and over again. Where this one, we have seen it in other cases, but this was one of the first times they did it in that series and show where Gotham was turning on Bruce, and it's not so much all of Gotham, but it was the police, that the people that have ever had his side, you know, and they talked about you talk about like how Phantasm was knocking out the mob, but then they were blaming it on Batman. So then everyone but Jim Gordon was going after Batman. Congressman was going after Batman. Councilman, excuse me, not congressman, but councilman was going after Batman. And then how in deep these guys, the mob got, so they had to hire the Joker. We get another, classic Batman versus Joker, Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill, duo and everything like that, to a really sad ending where Andrea, you never know what actually happened, but and then Batman doesn't get his way at the end. He wants to be with Andrea, and when she came back, he was willing to even give up being Batman to this. She was the only person, all these, a lot of his love interests, everything like that, he was willing to give up being Batman for. Before he became Batman, he thought about just ending. He thought his he even contemplated about like, oh, I'm breaking my promise to my parents and everything like that,
but he found love.
He found love, and that's the thing too, is that this is a different story because now we're getting the fact that we're getting more of showing that Bruce Wayne is a person. He's actually a person, and he's trying. He actually is trying to find love and everything like that. Where I think in yours, again, it's like I said, it's just another.
Honestly, if you really think about it, it really actually has nothing to do with Batman. It's all based around.
Yeah, but that's the same thing is we get all the time though, is that we always get a lot of the same story where he's doing all this crime. Yeah, this one's a little bit darker because he's taking a person and actually going to
he went to drastic measures. He actually went to drastic measures in this one. Like I said, he was willing to actually cut somebody open that was alive not dying or anything, younger age, or take their organs, put them in his wife
blood.
to save.
It was just blood.
Actually,
Really?
I just watched it before we actually started just to make sure. Yeah, I need the blood, but she also needs. Anyway, that's just my thought. It's something different in a way too. Like I said, instead of the classic, Joker or Scarecrow, where they're just always fighting.
Yeah, but and that's the thing too is, and like I said, is that I just think the difference between the two is that Batman Mask of Phantasm is a different take on something and a different journey, whereas this Sub Zero is just another longer version. It was kind of, I guess, yeah, it is the end because in the end, Mr. Freeze sacrifices himself, though he's still alive, but Nora ends up being alive and all that stuff.
That's
so
all
we
I
don't,
counted. That's all I wanted.
and that's the thing too. So we end that story and everything like that. But again, it just to me, there was just when you watch Mask of Phantasm, it came out earlier than Sub Zero did and everything like that, and just everything about it was just it was heartfelt. It was, a good story. It, the soundtrack of that was amazing. And it was a movie that Warner Brothers himself at first didn't have faith in until they saw it and realized we need to put this out in theaters. We feel like we can make a lot of money off this in theaters. And it was one of the first animated Batman movie. I think it was the only animated Batman movie to actually be released in theater, and it was so good. I think it was also up for an award too. I think it was up for awards. That's how good this movie is, in my opinion. This is my final thought too. Go ahead and finish with your final thought.
My final thought is just like I said, we're just seeing a different side of the villain, and that's just what I'm looking at. We're not seeing the same repetitiveness. Villain trying to kill Batman, a villain who wants to rule over Gotham or rule the world. We're seeing a guy that's not, like I said, I don't think portrayed as a villain, but obviously with what he does with the drastic measures that he takes, the citizens see him that way because he's healing, he's killing, but he's doing it for love. But otherwise than that, I don't really have much more to say on that. Just like I said, it's just a different take. Is all I'm looking at.
All right. So it ends round one. So again, we're going to put up the poll. Batman Mask of Phantasm versus Sub-Zero. You guys, you can vote for who you think had the better arguments. And we'll get into the next one as soon as it gets done.
We can just start us off.
Have the list.
I would just say start with the best character.
All right, so we're going to go to the next one, which is going to be the best side character, which we added a list of everyone of the best side characters, but I guess we actually ended up the picks that we did are pretty much going to be who's the better Alfred. So my pick for best Alfred is going to be Michael Caine from the Dark Knight trilogy. That's fine.
So you said you're taking the Michael Caine one?
Yeah.
Taking the Michael Caine one. I'm actually taking the Alfred from Gotham. You guys pull this up, by the way, for that last one. Like we said, this is anything Batman. So live action series, live action TV series.
Okay. And we're going to start now. Tell me there was not a better Alfred than Michael Caine Batman. Tell me there was not a better Alfred than Michael Caine Batman. First of all, he was sassy like Alfred should be. He was 100% sassy. He knew how to counteract a lot of Batman's quirks and everything like that. And even when Batman is trying to play the macho man, Alfred was there to really put him down. He was there for him for any aspect when he needed to and everything like that. And this guy also had the most emotion of any Alfred we ever had. Even talk about the scene where in Batman Dark Knight Dark Knight Rises when he ultimately leaves Bruce Wayne because he knows what Bruce is going for, and he doesn't want to see that because he is bred to he's in his mindset he needs to protect the Wayne family, and he would rather leave than see that happen because he knows where exactly Bruce is going. And even to the part when he came back at the very end and he got to see, when he was at the funeral for Bruce Wayne at the Wayne Manor and everything like that. He was crying. He was heartfelt. He felt emotion because he felt like a guy who was a father who watched his son die, and there was nothing he can do about it. And then what he got at the very end is one thing he always wished, where he got to sit across the table at a restaurant, look down, and see Bruce with the woman that he loved, and away from being Batman. This man has went through hell and back for Bruce Wayne. Probably the most emotional, heartfelt, probably, and he was funny. He was everything that you wanted out of Alfred. And yeah, he wasn't action packed like your Alfred is, because that's the one thing, is that your Alfred is the younger Alfred. It's
Correct.
Still in the.
I'm the younger one. He's still a little bit more fit. He's got still a bit more strength. Where unlike Ryan's Alfred, he's older. He's slowed down a little bit more, and mostly just giving wisdom and doing tech stuff.
Yeah, but in my opinion, like he was doing everything he could in sense of, and he made it feel like it was not even just a butler, but a father figure. Someone that he was
Yeah.
still loving, and where your Alfred was just more of a protector, but he also wanted to get those badass moments in,
Well,
and
like we said,
fighting and everything like that. And
we're also looking at age difference as well of Bruce. Got the version of Bruce Wayne where literally he's just a kid right after his parents just died. So what was that, 10 years old or whatever, they 8 or 10 years old. So you got literally Alfred, taking this kid in after his parents die, who the kid's just miserable. Witness a tragic, something tragic that pretty much scarred him. Alfred actually had to carry him through that. He was the only one that was there to help him carry him through that. Whether it was giving him memories, parents, or taking him somewhere, just to get away from Wayne Foundation or the Wayne Corporation. Like we said many times, father figure that pretty much, has to raise Bruce, which I still find it funny that there's nobody else working besides Alfred. Otherwise, yeah, you're looking at a guy who, I don't remember if Alfred has actually had kids before he became a butler, but
no.
So, this is also new for him as well. Having to always watch Bruce grow up from a baby. I learned to, based on what he's life, what he's seen, both Thomas and Martha, how to raise Bruce, all that. Also, like we said, he actually started training Bruce a little bit, tasting him some basic stuff. Target as such. Also, as well as he laid his life on the line for him, where he actually stabbed or shot. That's how much he loves.
And that's the thing too, is that yours showed a little bit more action than Kane's did, obviously, because of the age difference and of the Alfred itself, more so than the age of the Batman. I mean, like, Bruce Wayne and the Batman. But still, like, if you compare the two, like Kane's Alfred, he told, he was there for him in any aspect he needed to. When when Batman got drugged by Scarecrow in Batman Begins, he was there to pick him up. He was crying, and no matter what, he always knew that Bruce was going to do this, but he was always there to help him out no matter what, and he always there to give him a hard time about it too. But he always made sure that he had him there, because he knew that if anything, he was going to be the one person that could help Bruce out. And showing him how much love he has too is that there are some moments where he did stuff that he didn't feel was right for Bruce, even at that later age, because you get to that point when you're an older age, you gotta just deal with life and everything like that, right? And most parents will just let you handle everything like that. But this is how much he cared about him, is that he didn't want to give the letter about Rachel to Bruce because of after she died.
We saw it many times, even actually in both shows, where Alfred told Bruce, "You should not do this. You should not do this," even though Bruce was like, "No, shut up, Alfred. This." And then it ended up becoming a lesson. That was one thing that I loved about actually even both our Alfreds. It's like, you gotta let people make mistakes, and that was one thing that each time that when Bruce made a mistake, when he came back, he asked Alfred, "What did I do wrong? What is wrong?" And Kane would tell him, "Well, you didn't listen to me, and what happened?"
Yeah, and that's the thing too, and that's just my point is that it's still at that age, is it makes sense for how like your Alfred was acting, with the Bruce, Bruce Wayne then, the wisdom and the lessons learned and everything like that. Where mine is still doing it when he's prime Batman, and that's still the remarkable part is that even at that later age, and that was the thing too is that most Batman adaptations were getting Batman in his prime and everything like that, and Michael Caine took the role of Alfred that in most other adaptations was just somewhat a comic relief, and he has a few lines here and there, but he's just the guy who is a butler to Batman, helps out with the tech and everything like that when he needs to. But we get more in depth with Caine and yours, by the way, too.
We actually really do in a way.
But Caine does it in a way where he ups it to where now you start caring more for Alfred because of the fact that he is just, he feels like he's more than just a butler. And in reality, for Bruce too, that he never realizes until that final moment. And when he does that, and that he purposely went to that same restaurant because that's the same one that Caine had in his vision for Bruce Wayne. So he obviously knew he was doing something for him because of the fact that this is what he wanted for him. He knew that he was going to honor him by doing it. And that's the thing is that the relationship between Caine and Bale for that movie was superb. They bounced off each other really well. They made really good arguments with each other. There was a lot of emotion. That was the biggest thing. Is I felt like what makes Batman and Alfred, But the one thing you have to talk about the relationship of that is if they can build a better relationship than just butler and master. And I think they did that. They did that very well without it being so much that like yours. It's because he's a kid and Younger, that stuff.
Yeah, but I will definitely say this. Both Bruce Wayne and Batman both need Alfred. They both need Alfred. Right here. Because he helps him in both. Alfred helps him in both aspects. Bruce and Batman. He helps him on both sides of that. Where you actually get that with Caine. You actually get that with Caine more. Where I'm like, I get the younger Bruce Wayne. He doesn't even consider he was not even old enough to become Batman yet. But he's hey that there's actually have this one side to you, but you also have another side to you.
I think that's the thing too is that like yours is, and also yours is trying to take more control as well throughout the show and everything like that. From what I remember, there's a lot of times where he's trying to take more control. Where Caine was, obviously he can't do it, but he's there for that wisdom for him when he needed it, and he knew that Bruce is going to do it, so he's going to be there for Bruce for his injuries, for anything that he may need. And I just think that's the complete difference is that your Alfred is trying to take control, so we get a little bit better, action-packed Alfred. Where when you think of Alfred, you think of the guy the guy in a chair, I guess you could say. And I just think too, like again, I think the biggest thing you have to take take in consideration is they're two different Batmans, two different Alfreds, and I just think the biggest thing that was the biggest difference is the emotion between the two. I didn't really feel that with Gotham so much because it was just a kid growing up, and it was just the fun butler who would make his quirks and everything like that. Throw a couple punches here and there and everything like that. But Bale and Caine just bounced off each other so well that movie, some of the reasons why that movie was so successful, is casting. And I think again, you couldn't pick a better Alfred for those movies than Michael Caine, because in a way they needed him to play that because they needed him to be that strong-willed butler who, when he needed to play with the emotions, played it so well because again, no one felt the heartbreak. Everyone felt the heartbreak when you saw him break down in the funeral scene, The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm getting the younger Alfred. I'm getting the one with the young boy. Literally, he's become the protector. He's his guardian. Literally having to take care of this kid because not just Because, his
Guardian.
guardian. Well, I was gonna say master. I
It's
don't. I technically like legal guardian because there's nobody else. But you gotta watch it. He's gotta watch out for a kid that's worth millions of dollars that he inherited based off his parents' death. Alfred has a lot of pressure on him, I believe, to having to train Bruce, protect Bruce, get him ready for literally the real world at such a young age.
That ends round 2. Let's do villains first.
Okay. Villains and you know what? I picked last one.
So fair warning for the rest of this show. There are going to be spoilers, and because about the Batman, the new movie, The Batman, that just came out. So if you haven't seen The Batman, fair warning, there are going to be I'm just typing. There are going to be spoilers, so fair warning to everyone. If you have not seen it, go ahead and you can mute it or everything like that. Or if you want to listen, get an idea what the movie's going to be like, it's going to start now. Because we're going to go with best villain. We made a rule on this one not to use Heath Ledger's Joker because it felt like that was just an unfair advantage to whoever picked him. But to start it off, I'm going to pick Riddler from The Batman, played by Paul Dano.
I'm going to go with Ra's al Ghul, Henry Ducard, Batman Begins.
All right, to start it off, first of all, there hasn't been a whole lot of adaptations of both these characters. We get him in some TV shows where I think he showed up in Gotham. Ra's al Ghul did. You also get him in the Arrow show. This is the first live action Batman Ra's al Ghul that we get, and for Riddler, this is the second appearance in a Batman movie. The original one played by Jim Carrey in Batman Forever with Val Kilmer. We get him in Gotham as well, but I am going to come out of line and say this is the best Riddler that has ever been played, and he's up there for second greatest villain of all time. Possibly first, but I'd like to see more of the character. The reason why I say that is because there's been many different adaptations of the Riddler himself, and some people think he could be a little comical, which is true. In most adaptations, he's a little bit comical, not as funny as a Joker. But what this gave us is a really true story of a guy who is gone over the edge. He's doing these riddles, and like the Batman really portrayed him really well, because now we get a very darker tone of a character who not a lot of people know of outside of he does riddles. So he started a cult. He was outing the corruption of Gotham, corruption with the Wayne family. So there was a lot more depth in this character than I think people really realize, because they think of the Riddler, they think of a knockoff Joker in a way, because instead of telling jokes, now he's telling riddles.
Right.
Ra's al Ghul, I love the character Ra's al Ghul, and trust me, I love Liam Neeson. He's a damn good actor. But I don't think... But you almost forget in your movie that he was actually the main villain. Because the majority of the time, it was Scarecrow. It was Falcone and Maroni, and stuff like that. You were dealing with more of the gangs and Scarecrow. And you get him in the beginning when he's training Batman, and then you get him at the very end when you find out the true Ra's al Ghul, which is Liam Neeson's character. And it's a very cool, moments around that. But I don't think that movie did that character justice in a way to actually say that he's best, because you almost forget he was potentially the main villain in that movie.
I mean, it's go either way, I think, honestly, with it, because Ra's, who has lived for thousands of years, so much different stuff. He's had so many different aliases with his names. One under in this one, he was as Henry Ducard. This one, but he's gone by many others. I actually kind of like the way that he pretty much hides in plain sight with this character in this one instead of being the actual the I believe is what it's called, but Rachel
Something like that.
Demon said. No, actually staying over in his palace with the League of Shadows. Oh, running that organization, whatever you want to call it, very different. No, he actually goes out. That's one thing I actually like. Actually sets out on a mission, try to literally recruit Bruce Wayne because he knows of who he is, trying to recruit him in order to literally wipe out the wickedness of Gotham. I mean, you really think about it too. Gotham is there's crime always in Gotham. There's there's muggings, bank robbery, other villains doing. Ra's al Ghul was going to go to the point where he wanted to literally massacre the whole city in order to purge, all the wickedness, because that's I thought, oh, that was the only way to do it because of how bad got him. You also look at he had a doppelganger, of course. Did not get covered as well. Also tried to act like a father figure as well. First when he first brought them in, training it. But I mean, like this Riddler, I feel like they did kind of like what they did with Joker. I think they turned to the more kind of this Riddler. I think that's all. Like when I watched the movie here a couple days ago, that's what I saw. Is like, okay, pretty much what you did is you stole already what you did to one villain and you just put it on another villain, which actually I didn't mind. As we see, like you said earlier, we've seen many different of Riddler, Joker, the Scarecrow, different sides of them. So I felt that we've already done that. That's just my thing. Is like, okay,
but to that response though, yeah, it was very similar to Heath Ledger's Joker, the Anarchy, and everything like that. But there's a difference between the two. Where Heath Ledger's Joker wanted to just burn Gotham to the ground. Like he lived for the thrill of destruction, of murder, and everything like that. And it wasn't so much with Riddler that he wanted to do that, but actually, because again, the one thing I loved about this Riddler is that there was a connection between Bruce and him. It was the sense that they both are orphans, but Bruce was the privileged orphan because he had still the mansion, the butler, all the money, and everything like that. Where he grew up in natural orphaned home. He had nothing. And then it was, and how he turned pretty much Gotham upside down with the corruption of Thomas Wayne and, outing that to the point where now Batman's trying to figure this out and everything like that and trying to find a way to stop him, and he's always ahead of him. Even after he gets captured, he knew he could out him as Bruce Wayne right then and there. He doesn't.
But that's how Riddler's always been. Riddler's always been many steps in. That's the way he's always.
But he did it. But he did it in a way too that it's still he made Batman change the way who he was. Because remember, in the beginning of the movie, Batman was living for fear and all that stuff, trying to drive the fear. Then he realized that he needed to be a symbol of hope. And he learned that at the very end when, again, he was one step ahead of him because, yeah, you captured me, but guess what? I have something else planned. Where he flooded Gotham, forced everyone to be in one spot in order to kill the mayor in front of Gotham City. And that, to me, just shows a really true, psychotic nature, which, again, Batman characters, Batman villains, in a way, too, are very dark characters. And the Riddler, getting this portrayal of the Riddler is a very fantastic thing. Because he also was not only one step ahead in playing games with Batman in Gotham City, but he was building a cult. He was spreading his word out to everyone and playing these games and getting followers to join him because they knew what what the corruption of Gotham City was that people don't really see, and then they start breaking down and they start, you know, and he never laid a hand on Batman. That's the funny part. He never once laid a hand on Batman, and yet a lot of times he was always ahead, and he got what he wanted too because he got Falcone out. He got Batman to bring Falcone out into the light so he can take him out. And with Ra's al Ghul, again, I think in other adaptations where we get more of Ra's al Ghul, I'm going to say it, I don't even like this version of him, but the guy in Arrow did it better than Liam Neeson because we saw him break everything down. Because again, with Batman Begins is a great movie, but you see him in the beginning, and then you talk about the plans of Gotham City and how it became he wanted to purge Gotham City of all the crime and everything like that because Gotham's a hellhole, because it really is.
It really is.
But the movie itself was more playing into the fact of Scarecrow wanting to drug everybody. He wanted to pass his drug along. Then he shows up at the very end with the true, plan of action and everything like that. But again, we didn't get enough of him to actually say, is he better? I don't think so. And that's hard because Ra's al Ghul, in all adaptations, in animated movies and shows and everything like that with Batman, it's a very great relationship and a great, 1-2 because they're very similar in a way. And there's that respect value that Ra's has for Batman. This one, we don't really see it too much as much. You see in the beginning and everything like that.
We really don't. But, I mean, we should. I wish we really would get, like, one movie where we get a live action where it is just literally Batman and Ra's. Kind of like, you said in the Arrow universe, which we do get a lot of that. Ra's after Oliver, for a long period of time. So he actually does get him. But... No, I think there's like one other movie out there where you kind of visually go to the stream with him, which was really good. I have a movie right now. We were watching with but either way, what I'm gonna say here on my final thoughts is like, I could have picked Joker, I could have picked Scarecrow. I wanted to go with somebody different. Gracious, I think, is a very underrated character that we don't get to see a whole lot of, and what he has done for living in the lives, like I said, because of the Lazarus Pit, he's lived a very long life. He's planned this out. He's watched everybody, especially like Bruce Wayne, Oliver. He's trying to recruit all these people to his organization. They'll benefit him. Willing to go to the extremes. That he was willing to purge a whole city and further if he would have done, country. Well, we don't know because of the way that movie turned out. But, I just wanted to go with somebody that's, different.
And again, yes, and I agree with the statement that you said earlier that if we got him in a full movie that where there wasn't Scarecrow and it was the full Ra's al Ghul versus Batman, he could be up there as one of the best because Liam Neeson does play, is a very good actor and he would do that role very well and everything like that.
Right.
I just don't think that there's enough facts in there to make him, to compare him, to put him against the Riddler because we get the whole movie as the Riddler, but we get everything in the sense of like, his targets, his motives, his, the future we have with him as well, with the end credits and everything like that. Just the fact of Paul Dano portrayed a character that wasn't, that was a big name character for Batman villains, but it was someone that was pushed aside as a comical guy, Jim Carrey, because in his role he did it as a comical, which is good. In a lot of ways, that's the same character, but now we get a different tone, get a different outlook on the character, where if you really think about his motives, his ways of doing things, this is perfect because to play these games in a sense of riddles, mind games, makes you think, puts you in moments where you have to figure it out at life or death. Paul Dano does a wonderful job with this role, and again, he's part of the reason why this movie has turned out so successful as it is. And again, I think, that's my pick. So Riddler versus Ra's al Ghul, Liam Neeson versus Paul Dano. Poll will be up, you guys, so if you have time to vote, go ahead and vote. we'll get into the next question here, which is going to be the reason why we pulled out Heath Ledger from the best villain, because we're going to do a separate category for this, and make sure you put the but this is going to be best Joker, and so best Joker, we're gonna go with the two most iconic Jokers. We're gonna go with Heath. My pick is going to be Dano. Yeah. I guess.
That's as close as we're
best Joker. We're gonna talk about the two greatest Jokers that have ever been adapted. We're gonna talk about Heath Ledger Joker, who I'm going to pick, and Kelly's going to pick Mark Hamill Joker, best known for his role in the Batman animated series. Pretty much anything that has to do with animated, Mark Hamill's a Joker, probably 99%. So, go ahead and I'll let you start this round.
All right, I'll start. So, when I think of Joker, immediately every time I think of Joker, it's always... I always think of Joker, it always immediately goes to Mark Hamill. That's the Joker that I've pretty much have grown up with. I feel like, as we've seen other Jokers, I feel like he's actually that Joker that's all in one. He can actually do anything that we've seen from both Ledger, from Nicholson, to Leto, all of them. I think he's actually all of them in one. That's why I think that he is actually best Joker out of all of them. He plays the sadistic games with Batman all the time. Literally has actually killed people. Obviously, Ledger has done that. His Joker. He's also got this thing too where he doesn't know how to kill Batman. Fun with Batman. He always wants to put his life on the line. Batman's life on the line. Or do this. He thinks this is always a game all the time, and that's what he has been. Always thinks that this is a game with Batman. You know, what game can I come up with next for Batman to go through? Because he thinks it's fun. He's sadistic. Even ended up putting, what was that one? Batman Beyond movie, Return of the Joker. He even made it to where if he died, that he would actually come back still later and still be around.
Well, and again, this is a very hard battle because this is a battle between a guy who did one live action movie of the Joker to a guy who has done Joker in animated series, animated movies, the video games, the Arkham video games, and everything like that, and continues to portray Joker as much as he can. His laugh is iconic and everything like that. But I do want to make a point that, yes, this Mark Hamill Joker can do it all and everything like that. But the fact that Heath Ledger had one performance and puts him on top of the best Joker, you know, in line for the best Joker alone, is saying something. And yeah, he's not the difference between the two is that Mark Hamill's Joker is considered the clown prince of crime and everything like that. Where Heath Ledger's Joker, it's not that way. But in everything that he does, there's motives. There's, again, you know, it's not that so much he wants to have fun with Batman, but he just wants to, he's having fun with the corrupt, you know, with like the killing, the, you know, watching Gotham burn.
I mean, look what he did with Harvey Dent.
Exactly.
He brought Harvey Dent down.
Stop helping my case. You're just giving me the win. I'm telling you that right now. You got to debate with me. And that's the thing too, is that what?
Nothing. Keep going.
That's the thing, is that he broke Harvey Dent. He knew that Gotham was starting to rely on Harvey Dent, and he was like, okay, I'll show his true colors. You know, he played the game with Batman where everyone looked at Batman, because this is early in Batman's tenure, that everyone's, was still on the fence with Batman. And then he's like, okay, I'll prove that this dude does not give a shit about Gotham City. Yeah, he'll save you, but he will not do the one thing. He will not kill me, which is going to work in my favor because all I'm going to tell him to do is take off your mask. Take off your mask, and I will let everybody live. Would he have done it? Who the hell knows? But he played the game with Batman so much that it broke Batman. It broke him. After the Dark Knight, he was out for 8 years in hiding because he was ashamed of what happened. To the point where they regretted they turned back on everything, and all is because Joker was just out for chaos, and he lost. And that's the thing that in most Batman Joker fights in the animated series, Batman usually, there's games to be played and all that stuff, but Batman usually wins. In the Dark Knight, yes, they capture the Joker, but Joker won. Batman goes into hide, pretty much retires after that, goes into hiding for 8 years, becomes a brand new Batman afterwards and everything like that. The mind game of it's his fault why all those people died. It's his fault about Harvey Dent. He turned Harvey Dent against his own system, and he even made the mob fear him. He even was in there as an ally to the mob, and then he realized, nope, I'm just going to turn on you guys. Did that, and he didn't want to, and he got a piece of the money to ultimately watch it burn. He didn't care about money. He cared about watching Gotham break. He cared about watching everything that Gotham stood for, everything that the Batman stood for, break. And to have it to where, there was that moment when he captured Rachel Dawes and Harvey Dent and made, the funny part was he gave him the complete opposite addresses. He told them those addresses, and when Batman thought he was going to go save Rachel, he ended up saving Harvey. Then Rachel died. So Mark Hamill is a very good Joker, and his voice is iconic, and it's one of the most iconic voices, and it's the most iconic laugh. But there's just something about, voicing it to portraying it, and Hamill can voice it very well, but to watch Ledger portray it to a point where he actually got an Academy Award for it.
Great, yeah.
And that's the thing, is that it's the portrayal. It's the portrayal. It's watching it in person. Watching someone who everyone thought, because even when he was, at it, and they all said, well, the Joker is the new villain of the Dark Knight. Okay, so we're getting another clown. We're getting another guy who's going to, make jokes and have pop-up guns and, stuff like that. Totally blew it out of the water by being the most real anarchist Joker, where it's killing. I mean, probably the coolest scene, I remember watching this on opening day, the coolest scene was when he did the pencil trick and took the guy and smacked his head into the desk.
Want to see a magic trick?
And yeah, and so stuff like that, even at those smallest moments, and to the point too, he has 2 phrases in that movie that still are the most quoted Batman lines all time. Let's put a smile on your face, and why so serious?
Yes. Yes. Those are definitely cool lines. But also, you gotta look at Mark Hamill as well, he does the voice, but he has taken a character and brought it so much to life that he's become one of those villains where he's a likable villain. You don't know what he's gonna do. You don't know where he's gonna be. Sometimes he'll pop out somewhere like, I'm gonna leave a bomb here. He just randomizes what he's gonna do. We've even seen it too, where he literally tricked, his psychiatrist, Harley Quinn, just to get out of Arkham. Made him fall in love. It actually ended up sacrificed her, throwing her through windows and stuff. Batman, other just to get away. We've seen Joker, even try to form alliances with other supervillains, only to turn on them as well. Where you see that too, where he always tries to get the better of everybody. He wants to come out on top because he thinks it's the game. Obviously, like I said, Hamill has taken that character. I swear they must have just let him run. You know what? Got this guy down. You do what you think is right with him. I think for even today, where he still comes back and plays them. We're looking probably at the best Joker of all time.
I just think I'm much.
Probably not much.
A minute left.
All right,
So we'll go with your final thought, right?
Final thought is, obviously I got the animated version compared to live action. We're dealing with a guy who's played, Joker so many times, as we've said, through TV series and video games, and I don't think he's done anything else besides that. A guy who's just made a character so iconic that, he's done so much, he's been around for so long. Really hard to beat.
Yes, in a way that's very hard to beat, and this is my final thought too. Yes, it's hard to beat, because the voice makes it so where he's that good. However, he was also portraying the Joker. With Mark Hamill's Joker, it was so iconic that you also forget that he was also playing the Joker the same way as most other people were playing it. Comical, the laugh, the fun antics, and everything like that. Yeah, it was a little darker than most adaptations, but it was still, it's still with Ledger's Joker. It was a different take on a Joker because we got to have that motive where it's like, okay, Batman the Dark Knight series was a very realistic version. Let's get a realistic Joker in a different way that's not about the jokes and everything like that. Let's get the anarchist. Let's get a true nature of Joker, his motives, and Heath Ledger portrays it very well. And and the unfortunate is that we never got to see him after that role. May you rest in peace, Heath Ledger. But his portrayal, and that is kind of a dark argument to make, is what he went through to make that role so good that it haunted him and it hurt him in his sleep. And I again first saw it in theaters in 2008. You just saw literally just magic of a guy who took a character that most people thought was Nicholson and Cesar Romero from Adam West Batman, even Mark Hamill, laughter, jokes, antics, Jack in the Boxes, little pop guns and everything like that. We get to see the real motive, and he won in the end, which is something that most Jokers don't get, is the win over Batman. Maybe not physicality wise, but mentality wise. That's just the argument of the Jokers. So poll is up, you guys. So go ahead and vote for that. Again, Mark Hamill versus Heath Ledger Joker. All right, we're gonna go into the next category. Kel, what is the next one?
I guess we could we're not going to really talk about this, but something we brought up, most iconic Batmobile. I'm going to go with the animated series one. I just think it's cool looking, slim looking. Ryan, what was your favorite one?
Mine was Michael Keaton's Batman, Batmobile. I think if you pull up Batmobiles and classic Batmobile, what's the most iconic Batmobile? That one and Adam West's Batmobile. 1-2 in any arguments is always 1-2. Gadgets, the look of it, it was a very, very cool Batmobile. When you grew up watching Batman and Batman Returns, it was the Batmobile you always wanted. It wasn't flashy like how they made the other ones,
right?
But it was cool. It was a very well done, and yeah, the animated Batmobile was a very awesome, but it just looked like it was a cool look.
Well, yeah. Even now, with have the Dark Knight series, we're pretty much getting the version of a tank Batmobile. The Batman movie, which we got the muscle car look, which we've seen different versions of the Batmobile, which that's great. Variety is good. It also goes along with who's portraying that Batman as well, I believe.
Yep.
So anyway, we just wanted to throw that out there. We were going to talk about it, but we decided really not to get that in depth with it because it's a car. Unless we were like big tech heads or into motors.
Not Fast and Furious.
So we have 2 left here. I think we're going to go ahead and do what we think is the best Batman movie.
You want to do the best Batman movie?
I want to say the best Batman for last.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna do the best Batman. So the best portrayal of Batman. After at no surprise for anyone who had seen the new Batman movie come out, it's going to be an argument between these two, and it's going to be an argument that's going to be made for a long time. Kelly is picking Christian Bale Batman, and I am picking Robert Pattinson.
You're going right for best Batman.
Oh,
I said best movie.
Oh, okay. Well, very similar. Very similar.
Yeah, actually, still in the same.
Okay, so I misheard that. So we're going best Batman movie. So in a way, it's actually the same thing. Kelly is going to pick The Dark Knight.
I'm going with The Dark Knight,
and I'm going to go with The Batman.
Hi, shopper.
Oh, no. All right, so we're going to go with The Batman with Robert Pattinson versus The Dark Knight with Christian.
I'll go ahead and start us off. Actually, because Ryan picked Heath Ledger, he already gave us a good side of the Joker. Obviously, you guys already know that. So I'm actually not going to go much into that side of the Joker. But got a big old spiel about him. Anyway, I guess one thing you got to start off with The Dark Knight, and actually even through that whole, is the cast of characters that was selected: Christian Bale, Michael Caine, Gary Oldman, excuse me. Ledger, obviously, as we've said. Morgan Freeman, throwing some names out there. Really great cast of characters. I thought they all connected really well. I thought they really made this movie really great. It probably was really hard, to pick way better than these guys. Also, like you said, we have the classic Batman versus Riddler, where we get the more anarchist Joker. Said, more watch the whole story. He wants to break Batman. Fools, which before from Joker. We also get to see as well Harvey Dent come back into the fray as well. How he literally is on his way to the top, Gotham City, only to be brought down to its lowest level, which I think is great because then face come in, even though unfortunately he ends up dying at the end, which I really wish they didn't do in the first place. I wish they would somehow kept him alive for a possible another movie. We also get to see, as well as Bruce finally find the love of his life. Really wants to settle down. Is realizing that Batman's probably not going to be needed no more. Pretty much retire and go live his life.
So my question to you is this: what was one thing the Batman did the most of, and the best at than any other Batman adaptation? We got to see the actual title of World's Greatest Detective. The Batman movie was a murder mystery from start to finish, and that was something that they did so well on. And it was a darker tone. So for anyone, for a little bit about the background about the Batman, this is year 2. This is Batman in his second year. So we have a very young, early aged Robert Pattinson going to playing the role as Batman and Bruce Wayne. And the movie takes place with the Riddler, outing the corruption of Gotham City. We see a little bit of background of the actual Wayne family. We actually get something different than most others. So most people, if you know the story of Batman's parents' death, there was it's just he exited the movie theater or wherever and they got shot. Well, this now it takes in a whole new level because now there's actually backstory where iconic characters play a role in the death. And one thing that also made this Batman movie, I think it should be noted, is soundtrack makes the movie. Every movie, big time movie, comes up with some great soundtrack. This one had some bangers. for this movie. And I love The Dark Knight, and Dark Knight has is still standing at the brink of time as one of the best Batman movies of all time. But the Batman movie gives us something different because we don't get the traditional Bruce Wayne, who's the billionaire when he goes out in public. Ladies want to woo over him or anything like that. We get a Bruce Wayne that no one ever sees. So now we get to oh my God, Bruce is out of town, and they're trying to get him more involved. We get Batman more feared in this movie than other adaptations. We don't. Yes, Michael Caine. If you compare Michael Caine to Andy Serkis of Alfred, yes, Caine takes the role.
Oh yeah.
But as a whole of the movie, it's a very similar path with the anarchist, the person who's trying to break Batman, and Joker did it in a way of just outing Batman for his corruption like that, where Riddler did it in a way where there was actual background to it and purpose to it, and it changes Batman to actually want, instead of a guy feared, to a guy who needs to be a symbol of hope. And also, too, I was going to say this too. It sets up for the future very well. We get a little sneak peek in the cell scene of the Joker coming up, which the guy who's going to play the Joker is going to be amazing. But we also get a little hint at a future possible Bane reference with the Venom, the Venom toxin that he injected himself in the final fight, which that was an amazing scene. Also, one of the great things about this movie is that we get Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman, who plays the best portrayal of Catwoman in any adaptation of Batman. And the relationship between Bruce Wayne...
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I think so.
Oh, I think so. The portrayal
of... we are talking live action here.
Yeah. The relationship between Selena Kyle and Bruce Wayne, Batman and Catwoman, was very remarkable. It was on point to what most everyone see in comics and cartoon, that there is love, there's respect for each other. They want to be with each other. They just have different ways of doing things. And I think the biggest thing too is that this also not only played in the world's greatest detective motive, but it also turned it into really Batman in the shadows. And if Batman lives for the shadows, where you don't get that so much, you get Batman in the shadows in the Dark Knight and everything like that.
Yeah, but still, you're getting more of the fighter Batman. You're definitely getting more of with the gadgets, the fighting. You get a little bit of the detective stuff, not a whole lot.
I think that's where the Batman takes over the Dark Knight, is because we get that.
Because we've always told that Batman is the world's greatest. Really, not even. We've only seen glimpses of that in some of the movies, where it's like all of a sudden, but it's only like these little small things where it's like, oh, that's that. Oh,
exactly, and that's where the Batman takes over, because
like
it was a whole movie.
One. Yeah, where he's literally in his cave, in his cave, literally sitting at it, sitting or standing at a desk, going through so much stuff, over and over, trying to figure it out.
And that's the thing too, and there are parts of the Dark Knight that could be better and everything like that. And there's a lot more characters.
By the way, hiking Joker.
I think the biggest difference is that with the Dark Knight, there's multiple stories being told. That story, where in Batman, you get a little bit of Catwoman story and everything like that, but it's all going to be based on Batman, Bruce Wayne, story of that, the story of Gotham, and everything like that, which is what we don't really get in any Batman movie, because any Batman movie, it's split between villains and Batman equally, to even the point where villains take over Batman in a lot of the Michael Keaton and Val Kilmer and even the older Batmans. We get a lot more Batman in this one, which is nice because we get to see we do get to see everything about this we get to see everything that he portrays, and we get to see the true nature of him. Yes, we don't get the Playboy one, but we get that in every other Batman movie, so to get a different take of...
Because we've always seen the half and half. We've always mostly seen the Playboy, but then all of a sudden he gets thrown in as the Batman. Where now we're seeing the actual... he doesn't do that right now in his position right now.
Yeah.
So I just lost. I think actually both movies are really great. I think
these
these
are the best two Batman
these are
movies.
the best two that are just gonna knock heads for quite a while.
Exactly.
I actually said this after I watched this. I don't remember if I told you, but I've told other people. If Robert Patterson can actually make a trilogy with this Batman, I think that's probably gonna and the best Batman. I could give it to you yet. Obviously, Christian Bale, he did a great job as well. Like you said, we're getting two different versions of Batman. We're getting different versions of villains. We're getting different love interest as well. So I really don't have much.
I think the difference between the two movies, and I think again this is a statement, and this kind of hurts me because again I grew up. I didn't really grow up. I mean, we were out of high school when The Dark Knight came out, but I love The Dark Knight. I think it's one of the best movies ever. But I think the difference between the two, which actually helps the Batman over The Dark Knight, was in every adaptation of Batman movie. Why Batman movies are so great. If you read each description, each poll about what makes this movie great, The Dark Knight especially, it's Heath Ledger's performance. He does a very good job.
Right.
But the Batman movie, the biggest name to come out of it to why this movie's so good is Robert Pattinson, Batman himself.
Which
so this is the first.
We were all surprised by that. Like we were like,
what? But
we
this
were
is
like
the
Twilight
first
Sprinkles
Batman.
is going to become Batman here.
Hey,
What
don't copyright that. That was my joke, and you know it. I call them Twilight Sparkles all the time. And that's the thing, and this is the first Batman movie that we can really think of where Batman was the reason why this movie was so damn good. But there's many different reasons why. Again, the soundtrack, the action, the detective work, story, the villain, character Batman himself. Because especially in The Dark Knight, all those play in a factor, and I think the one that takes the less stand is Batman, because there's a lot more criticism on Christian Bale's Batman, because it's his voice or it's this or that and the other. And that's the hard part with The Dark Knight, is that Joker makes it that reason. Two-Face does a great job. Everything about it, like I said, very similar to the Batman, except for there is one difference, and that is the Batman himself.
Obviously, yeah, you got the Batman himself. You're looking at Batman who's already had, quite a few years already into his, vigilante career, where you said you got Batman, year 1 and 2 pretty much.
Well,
starting out.
Not only that, but I'm just talking like not just like where the Batmans are coming from in their years coming into those movies, but the portrayals of those those characters.
Correct. Obviously, like you said, you got more detective Batman. I got more playboy, billionaire action Batman. But like I said, I think overall, both great movies, both fantastic. Can't wait to see more.
Yep. So we're gonna put the poll up now for the best Batman movie. Again, it'll be The Dark Knight versus The Batman. Which then, I'll wait till he's done so we can... And we're going to go a little bit longer round for this one. Because this is a doozy.
All right, poll is up.
All right. Now, we've already established this. We've already talked about it. Talked about it in the last round, so we're going to talk about it now. We're going to have a few more minutes, added to this round, just because we need to. It's the best Batman. It's not the best Batman movie. It's not the best anything like that. We're going to talk about the best Batman himself. Obviously, you can already tell who our picks are based on our movies. He's going to go Christian Bale. I'm going to go Robert Pattinson. All right. To start it off, who the best Batman ever been portrayed? Outside of Kevin Conroy, who was the voice of Batman, again, this is not the voice, it's the best Batman. And I'm going to say this. What took Christian Bale 3 movies, Robert Pattinson's doing it in 1. He in one movie has already surpassed a lot of people in Batman. Not saying much because people love Michael Keaton. He was in 2 movies. People love Christian Bale. He was in 3 movies. People like Ben Affleck. He was in technically 3 movies, unless you don't count the bullshit Justice League by Josh Whedon crap. I don't. But we get the only thing we don't get out of Robert Pattinson's Batman than the other Batman is that we do get to see we don't see the playboy, you know, hook up with all the chicks, Bruce Wayne. But what we get is the detective. We get the ass kicker. We get a guy who changed his ways from being that fear factor to being a symbol of hope. Robert Pattinson, and in many ways, and anytime you get a character, an actor playing Batman, you're always questioning when it is. I don't remember really actually feeling this way about Christian Bale because I didn't know him when he became Batman. Like I didn't grow up with American Psycho or anything like that. So it was like, okay, we'll see how he does, and he does a very phenomenal job. But there was a lot of doubt about Robert Pattinson coming in as Batman. He blew it out of the water. And actually, I should have said this in my argument, but I'm going to say it right now. Robert Pattinson's the Batman really helped DC because they were getting their ass kicked by Marvel, and it was a win for them because it's an argument that can be made. Was it better than No Way Home? That's a big what if because No Way Home was that hits more nostalgic because of the addition of the Spider-Mans with Tom Holland's, but this was a DC movie away from the DCEU, and Robert Pattinson revived, in my opinion, character who was pushed aside as kind of a, kind of another Iron Man for the DCU, but then they showed him a true nature of Robert, the Batman, the detective, the fighter, the fear, everything about that. Robert Pattinson, my opinion, is the best Batman.
I think we're gonna foresee a great Batman in Robert Pattinson. I really do. Like I said, if we can get a trilogy with him, I think he's up there. Christian Bale, I think, actually helped set the bar after Michael Keaton, after Val Kilmer, after George Clooney.
The bar was really low, by the way.
You don't want to know, my ranking. Those guys. Except though, I give Michael Keaton. I'll put Michael Keaton. I actually was gonna pick Michael Keaton, but since he changed his, I went with Christian Bale. So literally through the whole trilogy with Christian Bale's Batman, it actually get to see, the highs and lows of both Bruce Batman. You get to see, him getting in love, dying, where he falls into depression. You get to see where he's tested many times. What he's willing to do in order to save people, symbol as well to the city as well. He also wants to say Gotham way that doesn't require that he wants to get rid of the mobs outside. You definitely do get to see the more of the, like I said, get to see the playboy side of him, where he's going out to parties. You also get, is the relationship he has with Alfred, where they work so well together. How also you get to see a little bit more of him actually rises a bit more than we see him really actually focus and actually running that company, pretty much raised to be. Got also him looking at, you actually got him to the point where he's like ready to step down as Batman, where he was actually trying to help groom Harvey Dent and become Batman, the next savior of the city, because you can't keep doing that forever. Injuries pile up, body, where to the point where he literally gave up being Batman for after that Dark Knight, and where what is actually going on, and actually comes back again. And he's like, last run, save this city. Actually, which pretty much what he does.
Yeah, and for the longest time he played a really good Batman and everything like that. But one of the biggest difference is, again, is just that these are two different. And I think that when we get that Playboy, Robert Pattinson is going to do a phenomenal job with it. And and it has to do with the movie itself and the story of him and everything like that. And what it comes down to is that both these Batmans come from a more realistic storyline and everything like that. We're not getting, Batman fighting Superman. We're not getting, Gotham looking like a knockoff of Las Vegas. We're getting two Batman that, are in real Gotham City, who are fighting criminals who are very much very real to what, if you ever see a guy who's a Riddler, a psychopathic Riddler, this is him, Joker and everything like that. But the biggest thing is that even in like doubt of Robert Pattinson, he was able to turn the character to still the same and everything like that. And he, again, just all aspects. And one of the biggest differences is that he really played the fear, the vengeance part. One of the coolest lines was in the very beginning when when I was like, "Well, who the hell are you?" And he says, "I'm vengeance," and that kind of stayed with the whole movie. And just the fact, Christian Bale is a very good Batman, but Batman's a character of fear. Batman's a character that he lives in shadow and is fearful. Christian Bale never had moments where he was like that in the shadow and being fearful. He was feared and everything like that.
He was more out in the open.
But he was more out in the open, where we got to see Robert Pattinson portray a very true. Because Batman he's a ninja. That's what his Batman was more like, was a ninja. And again, just how things set up for him as well. The soundtrack, the footsteps, coming through the shadows, him entering and everything like that. You, even in the movie theaters, in watching the movie, you get chills watching it because of how good it's being portrayed. You think of Christian Bale's Batman and all the movies and everything like that, and watching him, you get excited because he's your favorite Batman. He's a really cool Batman. But Robert Pattinson's is the Batman that is the most true to the comics, I think, because he and shadows, the fear, the vengeance and everything like that. And even when he was broken down with like, there was a lot of emotion there too when after Alfred got hurt, after the Riddler attacked Wayne Manor and everything like that. Then it became not so much like fear, then it became more like, oh my God, this is all about my family. Then there was those emotions with Alfred about, you never told me that my family did this, and learning of the corruption, and actually still maintaining a good, good Batman, keeping up the good hope and everything like that. And what the cool thing about this Batman is that we're seeing is that in other Batman adaptations, he's overcoming himself and everything like that, and fighting back and everything, right? Taking the Dark Knight Rises, somehow miraculously fixes it back within like 3 months, and then he's like, okay, I'm ready to go fight again. I'm gonna go climb up a cliff and whatnot. Where now we're gonna get more of a real story where the Venom toxin that he injected himself to help him beat the Riddler's gang and everything like that, that's gonna play into factor now, and I can't wait to see the connection he had with Zoe Kravitz's Selina Kyle Catwoman. That is the best we've ever seen, because that right there, if you ever watch Batman animated series, that's it right there. That is it right there. The love, the respect for each other, the fact that they know she can't make Batman go bad and he can't make Catwoman go good, even though they want to. They want to make each other go. They want to be together, but they know it's going to be like a long time down the road before that actually happens. And you're talking about Christian Bale's, side with Anne Hathaway's. We don't get that. We just get, he's going to protect her, everything like that. And, I'm going to make a small little comment. At least Batman in Robert Pattinson movie doesn't sound like he's, like, gargling peanut butter.
Hey,
And that was a cool thing, too, is we didn't ever get the I'm Batman kind of thing.
I did like that. I just like how he just stuck to his natural.
And I just think, too, like, and it was natural, but it was still intimidating. And I think also, too, is the way they look. The way that when the camera flashes to him in that kind of mysterious look and everything like that, it was fear. It was fear and intimidation that you saw out of Pattinson compared to Bale.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I still see like this, like if I can still see this like right now. If you were to actually flip flop these movies and the years they came out, if you were to went back right now with this Robert Pattinson movie, did it back then, I could actually right now Bale being like the older version. I don't know why. For some reason, I can just see that. Like,
well, they're very similar.
He starts out as like that's what I mean. Similar. Started out as the detective and everything, but then he actually out of that and over to the millionaire guy. Not doing so much. I don't know why. For some reason I could actually see.
Thoughts?
Final thoughts. Obviously, like I said, Christian Bale, I think, helped set the bar as Batman when he first came out. With first portrayed him. Obviously, there was some in their voice. Obviously, voicing the. What I mean by voicing is what I mean. Get to like I say, we can see the ups and downs of him, which I thought was great because Batman, like many heroes, or even just go through all that as well. Got to see a great characters with either both good and bad. With they helped build around Christian Bale. Yeah.
I'm going to say this as my final statement. I'm just going to leave it a very short and simple. And I love Christian Bale's Batman, but after each movie, you were just wanting to see another movie to see another adventure. But with Robert Pattinson, Batman, we're more so interested in seeing his story and what his next adventure is going to be like. I just think that just portrays into the character itself where, just the performance of the two, very, very similar in a sense of like the Batman itself, but Pattinson played true Batman, the detective and the fear. That's going to be it for this episode, you guys. We do have our next episode kind of planned, or we have a couple different options for our next episode, so we'll let you guys know when it comes out. Thank you guys for tuning into this. Again, it's going to go up on YouTube probably very shortly. If you guys have any other comments and stuff like that, please post them on there and everything like that. If you guys have ideas for topics that you'd like to see us debate on, please let us know. We're always up for ideas. And if you ever want to be a part of the show and want to in a debate or even challenge one of us into a debate, one of us to a debate and everything like that, please feel free. Reach out. That's all going to be it for tonight. It is 11:36. Gotta go back for work.
Thank you, everybody, for showing up, hanging out, watching this. If it as always, like you said, we'll let you know here with the next. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed this very much. We might even revisit this again down the road. Again, so anyway.
And if you guys want to, pinpoint your ideas of, put your arguments in of like who was a better Batman or better movie and everything like that, let us know. And whoever you thought won each round. All right, guys.